Hello. This is kind of like a tough one where we'll have to go back and forth, I think. But your first task, the first idea that I've got, is child welfare programs are administered, funded, and evaluated by like so many different constituencies. We've got um, watchdog groups, we've got education related people who are interested in having a particular education agenda, we've got politicians, we've got all sorts of people who are interested in like affordability or all sorts of different agendas going on. So, who's talking about this the most, and how can we can examine that? Is my first question. So I'm going to look just at the child welfare programs and see who's talking about it. Here you can see everything that I've looked for. I have no secrets. So oh here, that's what I was looking for. So the library catalog is kind of like a catch-all. It's like the 7-Eleven or the Target or the Walmart. It's got a little bit of everything. It's not the best of everything, but it's kind of good enough. So with this search, I'm looking for child welfare. Quote sticks the words together, but I want to find everything with child welfare. And also, out of that search results, I want to talk about specific program or programs. That's what the little star does. Might do programming too, but oftentimes it's talked about it's the institution of the program. And this is just a big open-ended search. So I'm going to search through everything, and I'll show you what I'm doing when I search through everything. The results that you get, you could go through articles or the library website. That's don't go through library website. It's probably just going to point back to searches like this. But if you go to catalog, it sorts it into how this information is presented. Since it's such a big deal, this might be something where we go into books because they're training people on how to evaluate or evaluate or assess child welfare programs. Because everybody's doing it differently. How do you know if we have the right criteria for judging whether it's good enough? And that criteria changes all the time too. So there's 131,000 results. Hooray. The first ones that come up, and I didn't do a date range either. That might help us as well. Because you can see some of these are getting a little long in the tooth. 2005. Practices, policies, and programs. The policy that would be most important would be assessment or evaluation. Research methods. And then here we're getting into like different things like practice and case studies and things like that, specific populations. So cruise through those and see if you can find something. What we could also do is add another and. So when I don't know what the word is, so I'm going to do assessment or evaluation. And so if I went to the advanced search, I do child welfare and program, and then the next line would be assessment or evaluation. So that's what these brackets, parentheses are about. So let's do that same search and see what the criteria are and whether we can tie it to a specific intervention or methodology like you were looking for. So that narrowed it down by half. This might be some of the things that we were looking for. This might not give you the answer necessarily that you were looking for, but it might validate the way that you're looking for an answer. And you know what? I'm going to save this for another search. So here we have evidence-informed assessment, and some of the things are showing up again. What we can do is we can narrow down to, I think we can narrow down to something newer than, I can only imagine what it was in 1800. I'm not sure the children existed until the Victorian era, according to psychology theory. So this would be like, put them to work. Let's come up to our current century. Let's start at 2015 and refine. I think I have to click on that and then refine. Oh, maybe I don't. What What do we get when we come up 200 years? Okay, this feels a little better. Now there's now there's only 21,000 results. I don't know why you're frustrated with this at all. You could go through 21,000 results. You could change the dates and things like that. But go through some of these books, and instead of like reading the book itself, go through the table of contents and see how these programs are evaluated and assessed, and if they have a list of criteria for them. And this might help you nuance your search. Table of contents typically are right in this record, though. Oh, yeah. So here's educational requirements for the people running the show. So you might look for the models in there. There's all sorts of different things. This might be like a textbook. It might be something that you take with you when you open up a program. But let's take those keywords that we had and let's go to a database. Child welfare. Child welfare is a public policy, but some of the interventions were psychology. So we can go across both of those. We'll start with psychology. Psychology. PsycInfo. So when they're coming from a psychological perspective, hopefully they're going to go into those interventions or those things that you were talking about. Let's see what happens. I'm smiling because I'm like, how could this possibly work? I have no confidence in myself, which is why I became a librarian, so I could constantly look things up and validate. So 1700, that's a little better. Oh yeah, look at that. So here they have the name of a pretest. So what we could do is you could go to the subject. Whoops, did that let me go? Look at the subject. And there's a list of things that are being talked about. So there's populations. There's a lot about populations. There's models. Measurement is good. I didn't think about that one. That would be good as assessment and measurement. Treatment outcomes. So for the extra ones that you wanted to search within, you could go into advanced search and add those at the bottom in another line. So you could just add any one of those. Do one acronym or another acronym and see how they show up. The problem is that they don't always look at them directly. Sometimes it's like a sidelight thing. So that might be the tough part. And this is where you get to explore and see if you can find what you're looking for. Another database that's fantastic for things like child welfare and public policy and how those things are measured for success. Sorry about the sound of the fan. It's probably really loud and the microphone's down by the fan. But there's another database called PAIS, and it's at the top of the letter P list. But this is governments all over the world, from the large down to like local community grassroots groups, and a lot of case studies. And they're looking at how to measure the success of something or not. And then they're publishing it. And so for other entities to see this sort of a thing. So I think the psychology one's going to be better. Yeah, so this is like the perspective of the agency and people running it. But there are interventions in here. The food industry promises to address childhood obesity. I'm skeptical on that one. So PsycInfo and PAIS, and do that search that I had listed, and then add in the advanced search. I don't know where it is in this one. Maybe it's modify search. but add those other acronyms and see what you can dig up. It might be kind of a spotty Swiss cheese sort of a research where you don't necessarily get everything. And that might be where the library catalog comes in, where we're looking at those particular interventions. So let me know how it goes. This is where I would go for my next steps. I hope you get out into the sun today. It looks really blue sky.